Have you ever heard someone say, it's too hard to vote? Do you know someone who doesn't know how to register and vote? Would you know how to tell someone how to register or how to fit voting into their lives, working around any inconveniences or barriers in their way? I'm Steve Buckingham, Chair of the UU Legislative Ministry of Maryland, and we help people participate in our democracy and make an impact on how our country is governed. In this video, we'll be talking about the normal issues that people encounter that make voting hard and provide some options to enable them to exercise their right and duty to vote. The process of voting is often more complicated than it needs to be, and people often find it burdensome. However, there are ways to navigate a state's processes that can make it relatively easy. Federal law gives people the right to vote, but largely leaves it to the states to decide how, when, and where people can vote. There are some procedures that apply nationwide, but voting is largely a state and local matter. So we will point out where procedures vary state by state. One major complication is the fact that it's a two-step process. Every state except Nebraska requires everyone to register before voting. They do this to verify eligibility and create a list of who's allowed to vote, which they then use to check off people as they vote. This year, however, it has a significant additional benefit. States have a list of voters to send applications or mail-in ballots so that voters can avoid the risk of voting in person on Election Day. The good news is that a person usually only needs to register once, as they can remain on the rolls unless removed by death. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 defines the process of removing a voter from the voter registration list. Under this law, the election board cannot remove a voter just because he or she does not vote. The election board can remove a voter at the voter's request or after notifying the voter if the voter has been convicted of a felony and is in prison, the voter is under a mental disability, and the court has specifically found that the voter can't communicate a desire to participate in the voting process, the voter has been convicted of buying or selling votes, or a jury commission provides notice when a voter is moved, died, or is a non-citizen. The Social Security Administration or state health agency usually reports when a voter has died. Unfortunately, some states also purge their voter lists to remove people they think may have died or moved, making it necessary for everyone to check their registration status before every election. So how do people register? These days, states have multiple ways to register, including by mail using a required form, online, and often through various state agencies, especially motor vehicle licensing and regulation sites. Some states allow same-day registration at their polls on Election Day, making it possible to both just register and vote at the same time. Anyone who needs help with this should go to vote.org, where they have information to help you navigate both the registration and voting process. But what if you move? There's a lot of confusion about who to notify when a person moves. Since representation in the legislature is determined by geographical districts, a person's address is central to voting. If you move, you will need to notify the election board of a change of address. In many states, changing one's address relating to their driver's license or motor vehicle registration will result in the election board being automatically notified as well. However, it is always best to verify with the election board that the change has been made, and this can be done online. Most of the time, the election board learns from other sources that a voter has moved. For example, the U.S. Postal Service returns a voter's sample ballot and provides the voter's new address. When the election board receives this information, it sends a letter asking the voter to confirm whether she or he lives at that address. The letter is sent by forwardable mail and includes a return card for the voter to indicate his or her new address. This is called the confirmation mail process and is required by federal law. If you return the card and confirm that you've moved to another address in the state, the election board changes your address or cancels it if you moved out of state. If you don't respond to the mailing within 2 weeks, you become a, quote, inactive voter, and your registration will be canceled if you don't vote or try to vote in the next 4 years, 2 election cycles. One more factor created by states has also been mentioned by people who fail to vote: burnout. One of the features of American democracy is the frequency of elections. While we cannot reduce the number of elections, we need to understand the importance of voting in every election. Elections are how we hold our elected officials accountable for actions they take on our behalf. Without periodic elections, we wouldn't be governed by officials who care about being responsible to the voters. We would no longer be a democracy where the people make any decisions. Aside from the processes that states set up for registration, voting is complicated by people's normal lives. While there are multiple factors that can make voting harder, most of them can be resolved by using certain features of a state's electoral system, specifically early voting, an established number of days and locations where people can vote before the election day, and or vote by mail or absentee voting, which usually requires the voter to apply for a mail-in ballot and may require an excuse. Some of the specific factors that people encounter include work situations. Tuesday elections fall on a work day. Elections in the U.S. have traditionally been held on Tuesdays. Since this is a work day for most people, this can be an inconvenience, even though employers are supposed to allow workers time off to vote. Working and living in different cities. For people who travel long distances to work, finding time to vote is often an issue. Multiple jobs. People who work multiple jobs often have difficulty finding the time to vote. In all of these cases, voting by mail or early voting on non-work days are options. What about college students away from home? For many college students, traveling home to vote is difficult. If the home state has early voting, it may still be possible to travel during this period. Another option is to vote by mail. A third option is to register and vote in the jurisdiction where the college is located. Transportation issues. In some states, there are a limited number of voting sites for election day or for early voting, and they're often not served by public transportation, making it harder for people to vote. In addition, homeless people or those currently without a fixed residence, although allowed to register and vote, often have trouble getting to the polls. Thirdly, this is also true for many disabled folks who are unable to vote by mail, so a trip to the polls, either election day or early voting, is needed. While most governments provide special transportation services, especially for disabled people, many nonprofit and political organizations offer support services to give voters rides to the polls. This also can include child care. While many parents take their children with them to vote, this is not always a viable alternative, but several nonprofits and political organizations also offer child care. That's it. If you have problems registering or voting, there are workarounds to help you vote. Now you know how to navigate the system. You should be able to do your duty and exercise your voting rights in the next election. If you're looking for more tips on voting, then be sure to like us below and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you.